Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. The week in games. This week we're going to cover news, 3 games, the question, and of course the secret picture to try to guess which game a picture comes from. With that, let's get started right away with the news. Now, this week in the news, it was announced that Fantasy Flight's interactive division, called Fantasy Flight Interactive, has announced Lord of the Rings, the card game, digital edition. Now, why is that exciting? Lord of the Rings, the card game, was a game when I first got, I rated it a 4 out of 10. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. It was really, really difficult to try to figure out how to be successful. Because in the game, you built your decks for the heroes. So you'd have like an elven deck, you'd have a dwarf deck, you'd have a ranger deck, and of course Gandalf's in the mix too. And then you'd go on cooperative quests. It was all cooperative. So you're facing the game itself, and the game gave you different scenarios in the form of different adventure packs and expansion packs to give you scenarios to complete. Like in one case, you're fighting a bunch of spiders, in another, you're going through the dangerous forests and such. I didn't like it for probably almost 2 years. And then I broke it out again and went, do I sell this or do I keep it? And it turns out, then I said, you know what? I'll give it another shot. And then it clicked. It clicked because then I realized, by using something clicked and I was able to create really interesting decks of things to do. You have actions and enchantments, and you have fighters that are going to fight different things, and you're trying to complete storylines, and it all clicked, and suddenly I understood why this is such a successful and popular game. Now, the digital version, we don't know a whole lot of details. The teaser was pretty much non-informational, but there's so much information about the game already that you can read between the lines and understand that it's going to be pretty exciting. Now, it will start sometime in 2018, but I'm really liking the conversion of high-quality games to high-quality digital formats. We've had conversions for years, but it seems like publishers are getting on board with the idea of making this almost an expectation. We had the Imperial App Assault last week. This week we're going to get a full-fledged game. It does have in-app purchases, so I suspect that we will be nickel and dimed. I make video games, and I'm not exactly thrilled a whole lot with in-app purchases, but I understand. We all understand the model, and our opinions aside, it's going to be great. And that's the biggest news we have. Now let's get into the next topic, which is my question of the week. So one of the things I'm asked a lot is, how do you handle people who just lose the plot when you're playing a game with them? By this, I don't mean people who just get frustrated with it, or just like, I wish I'd done that turn better, or, are you sure that rule's right? But people who just lose it, who basically just, their temper takes control, their rage just takes over, and they just lose it, and they decide to just ruin it for everybody. I can say, thankfully, that happens very rarely. It happens everywhere. It's happened in church gatherings. It's happened in camp gatherings. It's happened all over the place where people just lose it. It's rare, though. Usually people who play board games, when they sit down, they will get frustrated with the game, but most of them don't take it to that level. And honestly, there isn't much that I've seen that you can do other than follow the Proverbs model. A soft answer turns away wrath. Unfortunately, while that is a general principle, it doesn't always work, depending on the mindset of the person that's just losing the plot. And a lot of the reasons vary. Someone could just go into the game with a bad attitude. Someone could just not like how something's turning out, or feel like they're getting picked on or whatever, and lose it. And I've had people just walk away and say forget it and whatever. But people who just lose it or just start yelling, that one, you just kind of go, you know what? Let's just take a pause. Let's all go to the snack bar and settle down. It's a good reason to have snacks all the time too, and never let them run dry. But I wish there was a way. Because it's so rare, it isn't something to build a general philosophy on too much, other than just continue to try to talk down, say, hey, you know what? We're just having a game here. Let's take a break. Unfortunately, there are certain mindsets and temperaments and people who are otherwise nice people who just can't handle it, who just can't handle that, and they just blow up. And I've even had one that won't even talk to people again because of it. And the loser in that one is not the people around. They're just going to be like, whatever, dude, let's go to the next game. And if you're a person that gets hot-tempered, know what you're getting into. Know what you're getting into before you get into it. And understand that if a game has a lot of direct conflict and you typically don't handle it well, think of ways to maybe go, okay, I don't want this to get personal. I don't want to, it's just understand, try to be that person that knows your limits and handles them. But thankfully, Thankfully, that's a 0.01% of the time. The rest of the time, it's amazing how many people are just really good-natured. They just want to play games and have fun. I've seen people at conferences like Game On Con in Issaquah, where they will play a game. They're not there to just to win. They will play 4-day games. 4-day games. We're not talking like here and there. They're in this big, huge, like wall-sized map playing, and they do it for the experience. I'm like, I'm going to try this, and win or lose, it's all about the experience of the game. That's the way to play if you want to just avoid the situations, and it's why Game On Con is one of the best. With that, let's get to our 3 games of the week. Okay, first game is Hero Realms. This is a new one. Not a new one, but it's been out for a little bit. But Star Realms was a popular one, and that you had basically, it was a game where you basically had a certain amount of points, and the idea is to drain the other opponent of their points by attacking them with ships, and you'd have defensive ships and attacking ships and special abilities. It was really fast. There wasn't a lot of nuance. It was just like, here it is. These are the special abilities. Oh, if I have 3 ships of this kind, it adds even more damage. Hero Realms does that in the fantasy realm, not the Star realm, and it's very clever. The artwork is gorgeous, just gorgeous. But I wouldn't play this without the hero packs. That's one thing that I've learned, is that if you have the hero packs, they customize each player so they get a little bit different of kind of a oomph. You get to kind of specialize. Otherwise, it's very generic. These change the game in such an incredible way that I'm shocked they didn't at least provide 2 in there. But what's even more interesting is that the new edition, the Ruin of Tandor, is a campaign deck where now you switch from this competitive game to a cooperative game where everyone's taking Hero Realms, and this does require expansion packs and adds them to the game so that you can go play a campaign. Now, I've played this a bunch, haven't delved into this one yet. Excited to, though. And speaking of interesting storylines, Legacy of Dragonholt is a choose-your-own-adventure story that's, like, supercharged. If anyone remembers those books, and they were interesting when you were a kid, like, hey, if you want to, like, enter the spaceship, go to page 37. Oh, if you want to run away like a chicken, go to page 99. This takes it to a different level. Now, this is kind of a... This is a story. You actually create characters, simplified characters, and you actually have... This isn't an RPG. It's not a role-playing game where you're going to have stat sheets and you're going to roll your characters and all that. You are going to roll characters, but you're really doing it for the narrative. It is about an interesting journey that you will take. And yes, you can play it multiple times. There might be some sameness to it, more so than a standard role-playing game. But I'm excited about this because it is kind of an interesting bridge between narrative story, like a choose-your-own-adventure, and a true RPG. I'm excited to see if it gets pulled off. I will probably end up playing this solo, though I'd like to try it with a couple other people, but because it's one where you'll know a lot of the material, I might just, even though I want to be with more than one player, I might just bite the bullet and play this one. So stay tuned for something on this. Finally, this sucker came into my world a couple days ago. Escape from 100 million BC, and it is An Escape from 100 Million BC. It's by Kevin Wilson, who does a lot of games like Civilization, the original one, not the new one. And it's all about escaping. It's all about being sort of like a time travel kind of thing, but it's done cleverly in that the more things you tamper with during the game, and it's a spatial game. You're exploring a particular area of the world, and you're flipping terrain tiles, and they could have monsters to fight. They could have pieces of the time machine you're trying to collect to get back from where you go to. The idea is to collect all the pieces from the time machine and get back to your world without causing too many interesting distortions of time or paradoxes that create a lower score. For example, if you just open up a bunch of paradoxes, vortexes, and such, and you bring people in, you could bring, like, for example, like Albert Einstein or Elvis Presley, stuff like that, where you're bringing them in. So think Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure without the whoa. Really got this set up, and I'm probably going to do a bit surprisingly little information about this. There's just surprisingly little. There's one great walkthrough, but I expected a lot more from this because this is a clever game. I'm told it might be a bit too long, but we'll find out. If I'm immersed in the story, it's not going to feel too long. But that's our 3rd game of the week. And that's it, and except for, of course, the secret picture. So if you can guess what that is and post it in the comments, I will adore your comment. It will be great. Anybody got any guesses? Always love to know. Anyway, that's it for this week on Harebrained Games. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.